Hey everybody, it's Fangirl Hell. Is that what we're calling the show? I suddenly forgot it's been so long. It's episode 6, and this is our first live, semi-live. It's going to be unedited. We're going to put it straight up on the web. So bear with us. And this is our April in review.
You have
Pretty
to
much.
introduce yourself.
I know, I'm going to. This is our April in review. That's what we're doing. Okay, now my name is Christy Lee Stewart. I am a one-trick pony, and as always, my co-host is.
Cosmic, lifelong nerd, aspiring genius, and chronic nasal allergy sufferer who's afraid she's going to start coughing and sniffling in this.
I'll just talk over you. Okay?
Okay.
So, let's start with Drag Race, alright?
Yes. Team
Okay,
JINKX!
I'm with you now. I for a while I was on Team Alaska because her outfits were just amazing.
I've
But
been Team JINKX from the beginning, and I'm still Team JINKX.
well, when it first aired, I was like, okay, Jinx has insomnia. I have to go for her. That's too cool of a thing to have.
It's not
And then it was,
insomnia, it's narcolepsy,
what's insomnia?
where you
Oh,
can't
you can't
sleep.
sleep. Okay, well, I was close. Okay, so you remember people's names better. So who was the final three?
It's JINKX, Alaska, and Roxy.
Okay. So Jinx we like. That's a
Yeah.
consensus. Jinx is really cool. She's like a kind of humorous, campy kind of queen.
Yes.
And then Detox is kind of funny too, even though she doesn't get credit for it.
Detox isn't in the final three, but okay.
Oh, who is?
Alaska,
Oh,
Roxy, and JINKX. Detox got beat the last episode, remember?
yeah. I keep thinking there's the final four. So, but yeah, no, she's gone. So Alaska is also like funny and
Yeah.
campy. So it seems like, I mean, it's 2-1. It's probably going to be a campy queen this year.
Which I'm happy about. Like
Yeah.
like the pretty pageant queens or whatever, like
Yeah.
that's fine. That's so they are good at what they do, but I want someone who can entertain me. And just standing around looking pretty doesn't entertain me. You know?
Yeah. 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 So the pageant queen that we have is
Roxy.
Roxy. So I mean, I'll you have the floor. Talk about how terrible she is.
She's just she was so, I mean, I'm sure a lot of it comes down to editing, but she
Yeah.
just seems like she in the last episode especially, she just seemed like obsessed with hating JINKX. It was like, have you ever heard of a hate crush?
No, that
Okay.
sounds cool though.
It's basically like in a regular crush, you like sort of obsess over someone because you like them. In a hate crush, you obsess over someone because you hate them.
Wow.
So it almost seemed like she had a hate crush on JINKX, like where she was just so obsessed with like, oh, I don't like you for no real reason. I mean, later on, I guess sometime after the last episode aired, she posted on some social media platform. I think it might have been Facebook
It was
or
her
Twitter.
Facebook. I saw
Facebook.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she posted like saying that, basically she was so mean to JINKX because she was intimidated by her, and JINKX was her biggest competition, and blah blah blah. And I mean, I'm sure they were under a lot of stress, and that maybe could explain some of it. But the fact that when you're under stress you get that mean and nasty, that says something about your personality. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, apologize all you want, but that says something about your personality, that when you get under stress, you turn into this nasty, mean person.
But for those who may have not seen the episode or the show, it's not like she physically threw her to the ground and beat her up. It
No, no.
was
It was
it's just
verbal.
and
Verbal bullying.
it's just so persistent too. I mean, there's a lot of I don't want to say cattiness because that isn't right. I mean, there's a lot of shade. Let's call
Yes.
it shade because it's shade. There's a lot of shade thrown around,
Yeah.
and that's the way it is, especially with guys, and especially in competition. Guys do that. They throw around a lot of shade, and they, pick at each other.
Yeah. But it
But
was like persistent, just like you don't deserve to be here. You're not like you just got lucky. All the
yeah,
competitions have catered to your talents, and it's like, well, okay, even if she got lucky by the competitions catering to her talent, that still doesn't negate the fact that she has talent. Like, like you could have just as easily done good in those competitions if you had
talent.
talent beyond being pretty. Like
And that reminded me of what was her name? Remember the double elimination?
in this season,
This, yeah.
yeah. Oh, who
What
was it?
what was what was her name? The Asian chick,
Vivian.
Vivian. What really got me every time I see that episode, at the end when she gets kicked off and does her interview, she says something like, "Well, they might have talent, but they'll never they'll never have beauty."
Uh,
It's like, you can develop a talent
but yeah,
and be fine, but you're gonna lose your beauty. And even so, well, how is that? I don't
better.
know. I've never been the type of person who's valued aesthetic beauty as a commodity.
Yeah. And I mean, even if it like I'm trying to think of how to say this. Like even if you're pretty, if you don't
Yeah.
have any other qualities outside of that, you're just boring. Even if you're nice to look at, you're just boring.
Yes, because how long can I look at you and be entertained?
Exactly.
Sooner or later, I'm going to have seen you. So, I mean, Roxy, you got to give it to her. She does have great fashion
Yeah.
talent.
Yeah.
She's really good at making her costumes,
Hmm.
and she's not that good at I don't think she's that great a performer, and she's certainly not that great of an actress or a comedian.
At least
So,
not from what we've seen on this show. I mean,
yeah.
it could be different outside of the stress of the show. We don't know, but based solely on what we've seen on the show. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, given that, I think it would be shocking to me if she won.
Yeah.
Because unless the final show was, okay, all you're gonna do is make clothes, I don't
and
see how
even then, and even then, like some like with fashion, it's so subjective.
yeah.
Like what one person thinks looks cool or interesting, another person might think looks absolutely hideous. Like a lot of Jinx's costumes tend to be sort of like a retro vibe, and if you're not into that, you're gonna think it looks awful. But if you're into that, you're gonna think, oh, that's interesting, that's cool. So
Yeah, there were a lot of times when people were like, "Oh, her costume," and I was thinking, "Oh, I really liked that costume. I
exactly,
thought that was beautiful."
it's extremely subjective, and I think with the judges, I mean, I get the feeling that most of the regular judges all have a very similar view of fashion. They all
Yeah.
have a very similar aesthetic towards fashion. So if you
Mm.
don't meet that aesthetic, you're gonna fall short with them every time.
I certainly Michelle and what's his face, they seem to
Santino.
have yeah, they seem to have really similar taste in fashion. But
Hmm.
Rue seems to appreciate
Yeah,
um
a little more outside the box.
yeah, the more subversive looks.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that gives me a little bit of hope. But okay, so Roxy obviously not going to win.
yeah.
We're going to look like idiots if she does. But I mean,
What order do you want them in? At the top three, who do you want number one to win?
to win, that's what I was going to ask. Who do I want to win? Jinx.
And who do you want second?
Oh, Alaska, of
And
course.
then Roxy. That's me too. I want Jinx
Yeah.
first, Alaska second, and Roxy third. And if Jinx can't be first, I want Alaska first. I do not want
Oh,
Roxy anywhere
oh,
near the first spot.
yeah, no, me either. But I'm thinking just, in the ways that TV shows go, I don't think Alaska would win anyway because
Yeah,
her girlfriend won last season and it would seem kind of like nepotism.
fixed. Yeah,
Yeah. So I think Jinx might have this in the bag.
that's good.
But I
Okay.
could be
Oh,
surprised.
yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. You
Oh,
wanted to
okay.
talk about Game of Thrones, so
Well, all I want to say is that I finally caught up to it and it's not as bad as I thought it would be. It's not as good as everyone says it is. But I'm liking this current season a lot more because the stories are just better and they're finally doing something. It seems like the first 2 seasons it was a lot of
Set up.
setting up,
Yeah.
yeah, it's to putting the characters in the right positions, and
Well,
now
there's
we're
there's a there's a crap ton of characters. They kind of have to do
yeah.
that. Do you think I should get back into it?
Yeah, I do. I think you really like the recent episodes. I've surprised myself because I finished the first 2 seasons in time for this one. And I thought, I'm not really that into it. But as I've been watching as they air, I find myself, oh, I'm looking forward to the next episode.
Yeah.
So,
It would
yeah,
just be so because I don't have HBO. So if I actually had HBO, I'd probably watch it, but I don't have it, so I have to go through the hassle of downloading it.
oh, so sorry.
Yeah.
You do that with British shows, you'll be fine.
Well,
But
yeah, British shows are like, 6, 8 episodes, not.
yeah,
Although Game of Thrones doesn't have that many episodes a season, do they? They've got like what 10, 13, something like that.
yeah, I think so. So the reason I wanted to bring it up is because you uh, had a little bit of a disagreement with some people on Tumblr
They never
about
replied back, so it's a one-sided thing, really.
I I wasn't involved in it because I wanted you to tell me what was your opinion, because originally you told me I probably wouldn't like it because there's a lot of objectification of women,
Yeah.
and when I started watching it I saw that, but after watching Spartacus when it was just all naked people all the time,
Yeah.
it it didn't seem that bad, and there's a lot of really really strong female characters. So
um,
where are you taking that from?
I okay. Let me quantify this by saying that I only saw about halfway through the second season.
A-
So,
And the first season, right?
huh?
And the first season,
Yeah, I
right?
saw the first season, and I think up to like episode 4 or so of the second season.
Okay.
Um, I don't know. It seemed to me like um that like just a majority of the nudity was female nudity, and it
Hmm.
seemed like a lot of the scenes they were like shoving nudity, female nudity, into those scenes where it did not need to be there, like
Yeah.
to make the plot, to even make the setting of the world more rich. It didn't need to be there. It seemed like they were just shoving it in there to have it in there to tantalize viewers or something. And also, like, a lot of the nudity was oftentimes in a sexual context, whereas in juxtaposing that with like Spartacus, yes, there was a lot of nudity in sexual context in Spartacus, but there was also a lot of nudity that had no sexual context whatsoever, like people taking baths or changing clothes. And yeah, you could say that that didn't need to be in there either, but at least it wasn't like overly sexualized nudity. It wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily in a sexual context. So
Yeah,
that
I
that
can
was
see
my
that.
beef.
I think that you just get so used to that you have to take it as uh just a given when you're a girl
Oh,
watching a TV
and
show.
also all the people who were like, because I shortly after I had that disagreement on Tumblr, I saw this article that somebody wrote where the basic gist of it was that, Game of Thrones either needs to have less nudity or more male nudity to even things out. And a lot of the comments were like, oh, but it's set in the Middle Ages, and of course there's going to be sexism, and of course there's going to be female objectification, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, it's not set in the Middle Ages. It's set in the same generic fantasy world that most fictional fantasy stories are set in.
Yeah.
It may borrow from medieval Europe, but it's not actually medieval Europe. It doesn't have to follow any actual historical uh, context. It's completely fictional. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, that argument really it really grinds my gears to borrow from Family Guy. It's to take a fictional world and say, well, you have to allow for these racist, sexist, ableist uh, themes because they exist in the real world. Well, this is a fantasy world.
Yeah, and
You
even if
could have done without it.
you wanted to show that the world, this fantasy world, was racist or sexist or whatever, there are better ways to do it than shoving in random nudity to every scene you can fit it in. You know?
Yeah, because it wasn't a matter of discussing the sexism. Unlike more recent episodes, they do specifically
Address it.
address
Yeah.
sexism in this world with Brianna of Tarth, I think her name is.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the beginning it was just, oh, just so you know, it's a patriarchal society. Just so you're comfortable, because for it not to be, it would be odd for you to be able to digest.
Yeah, and like I said, like there are plenty of ways to show that it's a patriarchal society without having random naked females in every other scene. Like,
Yeah.
there are plenty of ways to show that.
Okay, well, so since we talked about Spartacus a little bit, let's talk about the ending.
Yeah,
Did you like the way it ended?
I did actually. I did like the way it ended. See, like I am a total sucker for like stories where it's total like tragic and heartbreak, and then at the very end they give you this tiny sliver of hope. I like
Yeah.
those kind of stories, and that's how it ended. So, but it, but like at the same time, like I came into Spartacus like expecting, like epic battle scenes and pretentiously stylized dialogue and half naked
Wait,
men.
that is exactly what you got. That's exactly what you got.
But I did not expect it to have like such like an attachment to it.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was going to be like like an adults only version of the cheesy Hercules and Xena TV shows that I used to watch as a kid. But
Yeah.
no, like there was like serious like there were like some serious character building, and like you get attached to these characters. It was really good.
Yeah, I when I first started watching it, it was like, oh my god, the dialogue, oh my god, the physics in this is just, oh. Not that I definitely didn't like the spray of blood every time someone got a paper cut. I enjoyed that, but it was just really campy. But yeah, I got so emotionally invested in like
Yeah.
Media and Crixus.
Yeah, it was like you got all the cheesiness you were expecting, but then
Yeah,
at the same like you don't expect to get so attached to the characters in a cheesy, you know, gore fest basically.
yeah.
So yeah,
So I was happy that, our the most popular couple, the gay couple, made it out okay. They were the ones that made it out okay.
yeah,
And I'm
that,
glad Navia died, because I would be a lot sadder about the ending, because I would keep thinking, oh, she's trying to make a life for herself and she's never gonna get over Crixus,
I
and
don't think I don't think if she had lived, I don't think she would ever have been happy. She would have
yeah,
forever been this bitter woman wanting to kill Romans.
yeah, yeah.
She would never find happiness while she's alive.
So I mean, with her dying, I can just tell myself she's with Crixus now. But the way Spartacus died, I really wanted it to be in an epic battle. But how he ended up dying is, in the midst of this epic battle, they kind of drag him off and he slowly dies of his wounds.
Yeah.
And it was really anticlimactic.
I
And
don't know. I thought it was nice. That's the only way I could think to describe it. Like I thought it was nice.
what was nice about it?
Just dying surrounded by like friends and a lover. Like I don't know. I just thought it was nice.
I never particularly liked Spartacus. I always thought he was kind of an asshole. So I was always looking forward to him dying, even though I knew that would be the end of the show. So I was looking forward to his death, and I wanted to see him have a gruesome one. But
I thought it was a nice scene, like a very emotionally effective scene. Like especially when as he died, like it started raining, so it rained on the bringer of rain. Oh, that was
yeah,
so sad.
it just seemed like they were just trying to stuff as much symbolism in there as possible.
Yeah,
So
maybe.
it lost it for me.
I think it made well. I think because in the actual story of Spartacus, like they never found his body after that battle.
Yeah,
So if in the show they had shown him like dying on the battlefield, I mean, whoever killed him, they would have known it was more than likely they would have known it was Spartacus because the people who wanted to kill him were more the higher up people who had actually seen him. So they probably would not have let his body just sit there. They probably would have dragged it off so they could make an example of his body, or at least like cut his head off to take it as a souvenir or something. So I think
In my defense, the show was never trying to be factual. I don't think they were worried about that. Like
well,
someone's gonna Wikipedia this and be like, oh, but they
the
never found his body. This doesn't make any sense.
the guy who like created the show, his last name is DeKnight or something like that.
Okay.
He said, I read an interview like after the finale, where he was talking about that they never found his body in the real Spartacus. So they said that they were like playing around with ideas of what they wanted to do with him. Like, did they want to have him die off the battlefield? Did they want him to die on the battlefield and somehow nobody recognizes that it's him? They said they even at one point thought that maybe when Spartacus and the rich guy, my mind went blank. Crassus. When Spartacus and Crassus were facing off, they thought maybe they would make it to where Crassus had grown to respect Spartacus so much that he just let him go. But then they thought, well, no, that doesn't really fit with Spartacus. Why would he abandon his people like that?
Yeah.
So they finally decided to have it the way they had it.
I think I would have liked it better if they're gonna do an off the battlefield death. Like he should have left with everybody, and then he should have got polio, and and died that way.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so let's go to the end of Being Human. Talking about endings, didn't really like that one. You liked it. I think we both liked Being Human's ending, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. The last few episodes I did not like though.
I feel like it would have been. I feel like since they knew the ending was coming, it sort of seemed like they were just trying to rush through everything.
Yeah.
That's sort of what it felt like to me. But the very last episode, I went back and forth between like, oh, I was like, as it was playing out, I was like, oh, I don't really like where this is going. Oh, I like where this is going. Oh, I don't really like where this is going. Like, I was like back and forth the whole time. And then when I got to the very end where they were like, oh, we're human, I was like, oh my god. But then they showed the origami wolf on the mantelpiece, and I was like, it felt like I was watching Inception all over again. Like, the origami wolf is the totem. It's the totem.
I wasn't happy with the oh we're human again, because when I was like, oh, okay.
No, I loved that. I got chills. Like, I was like, oh, that's so.
You just like happy endings. I think it would have been better if they all got polio. But yeah, so I wasn't really into it, and then they pan over and you see the wolf, and you realize it's not real. I was like, yeah, this is the best ending for this, even though they shouldn't have done this last season because it fucking sucks. So
I didn't really understand why. I mean, they must have gotten the notice that it was being canceled, like maybe during the filming of the season. I don't know, but I don't understand why they would have even bothered to renew it for another season. And like, because the characters in this season finally are completely new. There are no original characters left, but the characters that were in this final season were gradually introduced throughout other seasons. Like Tom was introduced back when we still had some of the original characters, and then Hal was introduced, and then Alex was introduced, and it seems like that was a good way to integrate in these new characters. It was a gradual build up, but it seems pointless to have introduced them to us on this slow, gradual thing, and then just canceled the season once they finally get to be the main characters, you know?
Yeah, I'm not even going to try to rationalize that. I have no idea what went on there. I wish it hadn't happened, because I mean, as it stands as a series, this last season just makes it seem ridiculous. It's one of those things where you're like, oh, the show is great, just forget the last season because it kind of doesn't make any sense.
And I really like the characters. It's just a lot of the storylines were kind of, oh, well, okay.
Yeah, and as a whole, the show would have had a greater impact if it would have ended last season.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are still confused over what the origami wolf is.
Yeah. Like,
So why
are
don't
they?
you explain it?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Explain it. Like,
Well, because
okay, when the devil basically gave them the option to where they could sort of be in this like limbo purgatory perfect life thing, or they could go back to the real world and try to defeat him. And
well,
he
it
did
was
each of
each
them.
an individual world.
Yes, he did each of them individually. And during Tom's, he was inside the hotel thing that they live in, and the devil was folding an origami wolf. And Tom, it was like this perfect life. He had, what was her name, Allison?
Yeah.
The the female werewolf that he met, she was there and she was pregnant with his child, and I guess neither of them were werewolves anymore. And he was, Tom, it seemed like he would have been elated to be in this world, but it wasn't real, so he didn't want it. And so, we see the other people and they all say they don't want it either. And then we think they're back in the real world. We think they've defeated the devil. And
But wait,
then
who said those epic words that it would have worked if we were together?
I think it was Hal.
Yeah.
Hal said that the devil's big mistake was separating them. That if he had put them all into this like perfect limbo world together, they probably would have chosen that. So we think that they're all out back into the real world, and they defeat the devil, and suddenly they're human again because Hal said at some point in the episode that the curse that makes them a ghost or a werewolf or a vampire comes from the devil. So if you defeat the devil, that curse apparently no longer exists. So you go back to being human, which I think is really weird because it made me wonder, like, are all the ghosts all over the world now human again?
Yeah.
Like the people from, like the 1600s, they're human again now?
It would have been funny if then they're like, and now we're having a spin-off series that's about zombies.
anyway, so they think they're human again after defeating the devil, and then it cuts to like some time later where they're gonna go try and track down Alex's family and somehow explain to them why she's alive again. And they're all sitting on a couch watching a show on TV, and then the camera pans across this mantelpiece where you see like random little things from different past characters. Like you see George's Star of David, you see I think it was Mitchell's gloves, like stuff like that. And then they show the origami wolf, and then it's like end scene, and I wanted to pull my hair out.
So that was it. That was the end of the show, and there were a lot of people who were like, okay, so what does that mean? To me, it was obvious what it meant, that they were, they were in a fake reality, that they put him into.
But see, I mean, I'm sure he was probably lying, but when they were in their individual realities, the devil basically told them, I have to give you a choice. Like, you get to choose. I'm not just going to leave you here without you choosing. So it seems like he wouldn't have deceived them into being into a limbo area together without telling them, hey, this is your choice. But it's the devil. He's tricky, so who knows?
Yeah, I mean, and isn't the origami wolf being there sort of their choice? Because at least Tom would have recognized it.
You would think. I don't know. Maybe he's just been so happy that he just hasn't noticed it. There's a lot of crap on that mantle.
That's true. They're never going to clean, so they won't find out. Okay, so you want to talk about In the Flesh?
Yes.
Oh, best show ever.
Okay,
so explain what it is.
Before we start talking about it, I just want to say it is going to air on BBC America starting August 3rd as part of their Supernatural Saturdays. So if anybody listening to this has not seen it and you plan to watch it and you don't want to be spoiled, like, skip ahead right now and we will put a sign up to tell you when you can start playing again. Okay?
Oh, but you have to watch it, you guys.
It's so good.
If you have not seen it, you have to watch it.
Okay. So spoilers starting from here out. Okay, so it's basically set in a world where there was a zombie uprising, but apparently it was only people who died the year prior to 2009 for whatever reason. And so they rose into, I believe it was in 2009, and then the story takes place like several years later in, I assume, the present year. And they've found, I wouldn't say it's a cure, it's a treatment for the zombies, who are now called partially deceased syndrome sufferers. And this treatment basically makes them non-rabid zombie-ish. Like, they can speak again, they think, they're
Well, what little that they actually did say about the scientific aspects of it, that it had something to do with neurological impulses.
yes. And
So it wasn't.
there's something that once, when they were untreated, there's something in their brain that doesn't get created anymore.
Yeah.
And then this treatment helps create that, and that keeps them from not being rabid zombies and being people who can think and talk and be normal, basically. Except they're
What I
dead.
what I didn't understand though was that uh they don't they stay as decomposed as they were.
Yeah,
It seems like, but they don't eat and they don't drink.
yeah,
And if they do, they throw up like black bile. So they never really justified how they can sustain themselves and whether they're immortal now. Because,
yeah. But they only had 3 episodes, so
well, yeah.
it's kind of hard to really go into the mythology in just 3 episodes.
Well, hopefully they'll have another season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully. I think if they do have a second season, I think it's probably gonna end up focusing more on Amy and her journey to find the undead prophet.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people were like, after the series completely ended, a lot of people were like interested in that. So I think that they'd probably focus more on that. Um, Also, I don't know if I told you about this, but on there's a section of the BBC's website where they put up the filming scripts that they used for the 3 episodes,
Hmm.
and like I read them, and it's really interesting because it gives you insight to certain scenes that you don't necessarily pick up on just watching the show, and there are scenes that were cut, and it's interesting.
Well, in
Like,
the scripts, because a big problem in the viewership, and I don't know, I'd be more interested in knowing if it was the American viewers that were confused or if it was across the board. But the main character had a homosexual relationship with another guy who turns out to be a zombie. That's a big spoiler alert.
uh-huh.
Um, and they were pretty clear about the fact that they had been together. They didn't come out and say, "Hey, remember when I fucked you?" But I mean, they pretty much did,
Yeah.
and
I
yet
don't, I
people were
mean,
still confused. Like, oh,
yeah,
were they actually together or not?
yeah. If you read the scripts, there are a few lines that are cut that make it crystal clear that they were more than just friends. And I don't know why those lines ended up not making it to the final episode. I don't know if those lines were cut during filming and just, those lines might not have even ever been filmed. I don't know. Or they may have been filmed and then just cut from the final episode. But they're like the scene where they were in the car, in the truck, late at night out in the
Mm-hmm.
woods going to hunt a zombie,
Yeah.
and it was just Rick and Kieren talking. um at one point in the script, they have Kieren say something like, "Is that why you never told your dad about us?" But that was cut from the episode, like it's not in there. But if they had left that in there, I mean, to me, that would make it crystal clear. Like, you don't, I can't think of any other way to interpret that, you know?
Well, he pretty much said at one point that they had slept together. I mean,
Yeah.
so how much clearer than
Well,
that
he
can
said
you
that
be?
he said that they messed around or something like that.
Well, what do
And
you think that means?
trust me, I know what that means. But there are like stupid, stubborn people out there who are like, well, messed around could mean anything. They could have, played baseball or something. Like, there's stupid people out there that are gonna say that.
I mean,
Oh,
it's ridiculous to me because like
plus,
there's scenes where he's going through love letters from him,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he's
Plus,
like,
this wasn't in the episodes and it wasn't in the scripts, but there was an interview with the writer and creator of the show, and he was directly asked like what was going on between Rick and Kieren, and he said, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said that Kieren isn't gay, but he's not straight. He's more in love with the person, and that they like that. Rick was really uncomfortable with their relationship, and that's part of the reason that he went off to the military and all this stuff. So, I mean, obviously, there's that. And then there was an interview done with the actor who plays Kieren. His name's Luke Newberry. And he basically said that it was a friendship that spilled into something more. So, obviously,
Yeah.
it was more than friendship. I mean, and then you have people who think, there are people who don't argue that it was more than friendship, but they're disappointed that it wasn't made more crystal clear to them. And it's like, well, what do
Well,
you want them to do? Like, start making out in the back of the truck? I mean,
I would have said the same thing if it wasn't more than 3 episodes and
yeah,
that's what the story was about. But it wasn't. I mean, their relationship was a big part of it, but the show really
yeah,
was about Kieren coming back into the world and experiencing this whole new reality.
yes.
I mean, that's what it was about. If and his relationship
With
with what's his face
Rick,
did have
it
Rick,
had
yeah.
an effect on the story, but it wasn't the main point of the story.
Yeah.
So
So like what was what was the most ridiculous part to me is that these people that are complaining come from, our community, the fangirl community,
yeah,
who like begs for there to be homosexual context.
yeah.
And when they finally get some, they're like, I don't know.
I know. Like, I was just surprised that it was there to begin with. Like, I saw a preview for this show at the end of a Being Human episode. And I was like, oh, this looks interesting. And I went into it just thinking, not expecting anything like that. And then just to have it, it was like, oh, well, this is a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
It's like, just be happy with what you get. Like, there could have been nothing there at all. So just be happy.
Even if there wasn't, it still would be a fantastic show.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
August 3rd, people. August 3rd on BBC America. Watch it.
And hopefully they'll have a second season. I hope so bad.
I know. Okay.
Okay, go on.
So I want to talk about a show called Please Like Me. I know you. I don't even know if I've mentioned it to you.
I've never heard of it.
Okay. It's it's an Australian comedy drama, a dramedy.
Okay.
It's written by and starring a comedian named Josh Thomas, who I have known about for several years now. So yeah, it's hard to really go into what it's about without completely spoiling you. So, I'll just say that
Okay. Is it a new show?
it's finished airing now, but it finished airing a couple weeks ago.
So is it just one season?
As of now, yes.
Okay.
There's no word yet if they're gonna have a second season or not. So it's okay. A lot of the reactions, either people absolutely love it or they just don't like it or don't get it. I read some people saying that it's like Girls, but with a guy as the lead, but I don't really think it's like Girls. I think like the basic premise of it, if you only like skim the surface, could maybe seem like they're similar shows because for the most part they both like focus on a group of young hipster friends.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I don't really think they're that similar. I think maybe the humor style on occasions can be similar, but
So it's just a show about a group of friends?
well, no. Do you want me to just like I'll tell you about it, but it's going to completely spoil you, and I don't know if you would ever want to watch this.
Well, I'll give it a shot. Well, act like you're a commercial for the first episode. What would entice
Okay.
me to watch this?
Oh gosh. Well, okay.
Commercial for the first episode.
Okay.
Think that.
So Josh is on a date with his current girlfriend, and then she breaks up with him because she said that it's not working, and she thinks he's probably gay. And he's like, no, I'm not. And then he goes to visit his friend at work, and they meet. He meets one of his friend's coworkers, who manages to invite himself along to dinner at a dinner party at their place that night. Josh lives with his friend, and his friend named Tom his girlfriend comes over and they get into a big argument, and then they go to another room to talk about it, and then all you hear is like really loud sex noises. And then the colleague from work, his name's Jeffrey, he's like, so can I crash here tonight? And then Jeffrey and Josh sort of end up hooking up slightly, but not really. And then Josh wakes up the next morning and he's checking his messages on his cell phone, and it's all these like they play in backwards order for some reason. I've never known voicemails to do that, but you slowly get the idea that something really awful has happened to his mother. So he goes to the hospital and he finds out his mother basically tried to commit suicide. She took a bunch of Tylenol and drank some alcohol. And then they tell Josh and his dad that basically she either has to go to a mental home or somebody has to live with her to watch her because they think she's going to try and reattempt suicide. So Josh moves back in with his mother. And he has a really funny older aunt that's sort of like his grandmother. Yeah.
Okay.
I think part of the reason I like it, the character of Josh is quite obviously very emotionally repressed, and it's pretty obvious that he's not comfortable, like, discussing feelings with other people, or he's uncomfortable when other people display really strong emotions, and I'm sort of like that too. So I think that's part of the reason why like I can slightly identify with that character.
So it's like therapy for you.
Not really, because he never really gets better. It's funny to me. I think it's funny.
Is it meant to be a comedy?
It's a dramedy. Like, there are moments that are genuinely funny. There are moments that are genuinely very sad. And there are moments that are, like, feel realistically awkward. So it's sort of in between. It's a dramedy.
Okay. I might give that a shot.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else do you have? TV?
Shameless. Okay, so...
Okay, but I know. I've only seen the first episode.
You've only seen one episode?
Yes!
Oh my god, I thought you had at least maybe seen the first season.
No, a friend of mine wants to watch it, so...
Oh my god! Okay.
So skip.
So, all I can say then is there are so many open-ended plot points that came with the finale. So many open-ended plot points. And it's going to be like a year probably before we get to a new season. So, ugh. Okay, we'll skip past that then. Oh, I thought you'd at least seen the first season.
Sorry, no.
So Doctor Who.
Alright. It's all you, because I don't know anything about Doctor Who.
So once the lead creator person, I can't think of the word for it, the head of Doctor Who used to be Russell T Davies, and then Stephen Moffat took over. And since Stephen Moffat took over, they sort of started doing this thing where they split the season in half. So you'll get 6 or 7 episodes, and then it's like a 4, 5, 6 month break, something like that, and then you get the other episodes. Which I really don't like, because then it doesn't feel like a full season. It feels like 2 seasons, It feels disjointed. Like, that break in between makes everything feel disjointed. So recently the second half of the season started, but it feels like a whole new season because there's a new companion and it gives a whole different vibe to everything. And I like the new companion so far, but it's like, oh, yeah, okay, another young female companion with a mystery surrounding her. How innovative, because that's basically been every female companion since Moffat took over.
Has there been any male companions?
There was Rory, who was the husband of the previous female companion, which a lot of people liked Rory more than they liked the female companion, Amy. A lot of people were like, let Rory be the companion. He's way better. And then there was Captain Jack, who a lot of people...
Was he a companion? I didn't think he was.
See, that's the contention. A lot of people don't consider him to be a companion because he never traveled with the Doctor for an extended period of time. But he has been involved in things with the Doctor. So some people consider him a companion and some people don't. I would count him as a companion because he has traveled with the Doctor and helped the Doctor like a companion would at certain times. He's never, like I said, he's never traveled with the Doctor on the TARDIS for an extended period of time, but I would consider him a companion. There were male companions in the classic Who, but I know the new Who better than I know the classic Who, so so yeah, basically. Oh, and then I guess you could almost count Mickey Smith, but he sort of falls into that thing with Jack where he was only there briefly and not really ever for a long amount of time. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, I'm curious to know what the mystery around Clara is the new companion. I'm curious to know what the mystery around her is, but at the same time, I feel like, okay, Moffat, you've pulled this shtick before. Give us something different, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, but the episode that they had last night, I thought was probably the best episode so far of this second half of the season. They've only had like 3, but it was that last night so far was my favorite one of the second half of the season. It was very. It would have made a good Halloween episode. It involved
Okay.
it involved ghosts in quotes. They weren't actually ghosts, but it would have made a really good Halloween episode. I'll put it that way. So also this year they're gonna have a 50th anniversary special for Doctor Who. From I try not to read a lot of spoilers for Doctor Who, so I don't know too much about this 50th anniversary special. All I know from my understanding, it's going to be like a standalone episode. And so far, it's confirmed that David Tennant, who was the previous Doctor, the 10th Doctor, the beloved 10th Doctor, is going to be back. And Billie Piper, who played Rose, is going to be back. And I'm happy to see David Tennant back. Don't really care to see Rose back. Because she started off okay as a companion. She was, when they rebooted it in 2005, she was the first companion for the 9th Doctor. And then she continued as a companion to the 10th Doctor. She was in the companion for 2 seasons, and then she got stuck in a parallel universe. And it was basically like, oh, Rose can never, ever, ever, ever come back to our universe. We'll never, ever, ever see her again. 2 episodes later, oh, look, there's Rose!
Well, shit happens.
It was just like, I feel like she overstayed her welcome, basically.
Yeah.
Like, I liked her character at first, and then the more they kept telling us, oh, we'll never see her again, oh, look, there she is, the more I started to dislike her. You know?
Yeah, I get that.
What kind of upsets me about the 50th anniversary rumors that I've read, though, before they confirmed that David Tennant and Billie Piper were coming back for the 50th anniversary special, they both had been denying it for months. They were like, oh no, nobody's even asked me about it. I haven't heard anything about it. And then all of a sudden, they're part of it, you know? So I assume that they had been told, don't tell anybody you're a part of it. Just deny. But so far, I think they're the only ones that have been confirmed. I think, as far as I know. But I read that John Barrowman, who plays Captain Jack, said that, you know, he hasn't been asked to be in it. And I don't know if that's, you know, more being like coy that, oh no, I'm not in it. I secretly am, but I'm not in it.
Yeah.
Or if they just really have not asked him to be in it. And I want Captain Jack to be in it. I miss like campy, fun Captain Jack. Like when he was in the first 2 seasons of Torchwood, Captain Jack was very like campy and fun, and even more so when he was in Doctor Who, he was very like campy and fun. And then the last 2 seasons of Torchwood, 3 and 4, he got very dark and serious, and he just wasn't as fun. So I want him to go back into Doctor Who and be like fun and lighthearted and campy and flirty. But I don't think it's gonna happen. But I want Captain Jack to meet the 11th Doctor. I want to see the reaction.
Well, I hope for you that happens.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
Well, hopefully then Jinx will win and you can be happy anyway. Okay, so we got a couple minutes. Do you want to squeeze in your your squee and the what the fuck?
Okay.
You want to do squee first?
Sure. You go first,
Okay.
because mine's really stupid.
Okay, well, mine's short. My squee is that they finally started filming X-Men Days Future Past. I'm so excited for this movie. I get another X-Men movie, and it's going to have double the Eric and Charles love because there's going to be old version and young version, and the fanfics are just going to be gross and just orgies, and it's going to be fantastic. So that's what I'm excited about. What are you excited about?
Okay. Oh, I don't even want to say this. It's so stupid.
Oh, now I gotta know.
Okay. Um. So a while back, on Tumblr, you were trying to explain to people, in reference to Deadpool, what the difference between a transvestite, a transsexual, and a drag queen are.
Yeah. I try that every week.
Yeah. And then, as I was reading it, this thought just popped into my head, and it's been periodically popping into my head for the past few weeks. And it makes me, like, amuses me every time it pops into my head, but it's so
Okay.
stupid. I
Okay.
just say it. Okay. Okay, Deadpool is the merc with a mouth, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you know what a merkin is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So merkin with a mouth.
I think we can make this a series. I think that's fantastic. And it would be easy to draw because you can just scribble a little bit and put a yellow speech bubble, and we're done. That's fantastic.
Okay. Okay. WTF. Go.
You want to go first?
No, you go.
Okay. Okay, so mine isn't that long either, and it's not that great. Uh, I've been catching up on the new Marvel because, of course, Marvel had a relaunch, and I've been reading my regular ones. But then I was like, oh, since it relaunched, I can go back on the database and catch up to a bunch of new ones. So in doing so, I realized that either the Marvel writers have been watching a lot of Korean movies, or they just don't talk to each other because almost half the universe has brain cancer right now. Because, okay, Deadpool has brain cancer. That's something we know. He's
Yeah.
always had it, so that's a given. So it's easy to forget. But please, people, keep in mind that he does have brain cancer. We already have a super person with brain cancer. And then all of a sudden, Captain Marvel comes down with brain cancer. We don't know it's a brain cancer. Like, oh, it could be tumors, it might be cancers, we don't really know. But she has brain cancer. So when that came out, I was like, oh, that was weird. And I even kind of blogged about it. I was like, oh, maybe they can go to treatment together, in this really sad joke. And so I'm catching up on my comics, and I'm reading Cable and X-Force, and I have no idea what's going on in that series at all because no one's talking about it. But it's really good, by the way. If you think, oh, maybe I should read that, you should. I passed on it, but it's actually good. At the first episode, Cable has headaches, and lo
Oh
and
no.
behold, he has brain cancer. And I don't read any of the Avengers. I read uh mostly X-Men ones, but I don't. So if there, I mean, Ant-Man could have brain cancer right now, and I don't know. It seems like in all the ones I'm reading, there's someone with brain cancer. It's getting ridiculous.
Maybe it's part of some, like, um company wide. I don't know what to call it. Company wide, like, story arc where they're gonna find out that there's something causing brain cancer in people in the Marvel universe.
Maybe. I mean, I would say, oh wait, that's pretty good. If it was like another character, but again, like Deadpool, he's always had brain cancer.
Well,
Um,
maybe his is just a coincidence then.
But Captain Marvel and Cable, they suddenly come down with this brain cancer that messes up their powers. So that would be cool if they did a crossover. But then again, Cable and X-Force is kind of this title that they're just, oh, well, let's see if this floats. And Captain Marvel, it's like they keep trying to cancel it. So I really doubt it's, a grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
since they're both probably not going to last another week.
But that would be cool if they did that.
Yeah, it would be cool. So what's
Okay.
your...
Okay. Again, this involves Deadpool.
Oh, what a good episode.
Okay, so recently, I've been seeing like popping up lots of well, not lots, but some Doctor Who Deadpool crossover fan art where Deadpool
Well, there's a
meets.
specific series that someone's doing of it. That's why.
Oh, really? Well, okay, where Deadpool meets one of the Doctors.
Yeah.
But I want to know out of why nobody has yet done a Deadpool meets Captain Jack Harkness crossover, because they would be the perfect duo. Neither of them can die. They're both very quippy. Captain Jack is an outrageous flirt. It would be perfect. Something needs to make them meet.
I think it's because the fandoms don't really overlap.
But
The only reason you have this Doctor Who one is because again, I think it's a couple people they're doing this comic series. So people are like, oh, I know of it's mostly the people that like that and have reblogged that, or the people are like, and I'm sorry if I'm being an asshole, but it's mostly people like, oh, I know of Deadpool, I like of Deadpool, I know of Doctor Who, I like of Doctor Who. That's funny. I'll reblog it. But
Yeah.
the two fandoms that actually know their shit, they don't really overlap from what I've seen.
Yeah, but oh my god, if somebody did a Deadpool Captain Jack crossover, I would be ecstatic.
Well, I will definitely keep my eye out. I always post new stuff, but I will.
Because, like I said, like they're perfect. Like they're the perfect duo. That's all I'm good. Yeah.
But don't you think that'd be too much of like the same thing? It'd be like, what was that old Saturday Night Live where the two guys are in the club and they're nodding their heads?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be like that?
Two wild and crazy guys.
Yeah.
That would be funny.
It would be funny. Maybe they'll do it in that crossover series. Okay, so we made it. We're like directly on time. We made it in an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a good job.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited about it. So, yeah. So everybody go watch In the Flesh. Watch the finale of Drag Race, and if you can text in a vote, text in for JINKX.
JINKX!
Please. And please get your head checked because there's an outbreak of brain cancer.
Especially if you're a superhero, please.
Yeah. And get your polio shots, because I hear that's going around too. Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.
Oh, we did such a good job.